Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Your 38th favorite dad in the family community, Papa West, Jacob West, and Shaq, here for another exciting episode of TMG Takes the Field, the weekly show. Yeah, weekly. We do it every week. Weekly show where we talk about mainly football, a couple other sports. Uh, like today, we're going to talk a little bit more about some baseball. As we know, the World Series ended not that long ago, a couple weeks ago. And we do have some news. A lot of news kind of regarding free agency, but we don't really care about that quite yet. Biggest news is Silver Slugger awards have been handed out this year. Um, we do have for the American League at catcher Salvador Perez of the Kansas City Royals, first base Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Toronto Blue Jays, second base Jose Altuve of the Astros, third base Jose Ramirez of the Guardians, shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. of the Royals. Outfield is Aaron Judge of the Yankees, Juan Soto of the Yankees, and Anthony Santander of the Baltimore Orioles. Designated hitter, we have Brent Rooker of the Oakland Athletics, and utility Josh Smith of the Texas Rangers. Then in the National League, we have the catcher William Contreras of the Milwaukee Brewers, first base Bryce Harper of the Philadelphia Phillies, second base Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks, third base Manny Machado of the San Diego Padres, shortstop Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets, outfield Jackson Merrill of the Padres, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, and Jurickson Profar of the Padres. Designated hitter, we have Shohei Ohtani of the Dodgers, and at utility Mookie Betts, also of the Dodgers. So congratulations to your Silver Slugger Award winners. MVPs, Cy Young, stuff like that has not been named. Whenever it is, right afterwards, whenever we do our show, we will talk about it at least a little bit. But we are going to talk about college football. Very exciting week, very heartbreaking week for some people too. Quite a bit of major upsets happening. So we had happening Saturday, Ohio State beat Purdue 45-0. Texas beat Florida 49-17. Indiana beat Michigan 20-15. Army beat North Texas 14-3. Clemson beat Virginia Tech 24-14. Colorado beat Texas Tech 41-27. Oregon beat Maryland 39-18. Tennessee beat Mississippi State 33-14. Notre Dame beat Florida State 52-3. Missouri beat Oklahoma 30-23. Penn State beat Washington 35-6. Boise State beat Nevada 28-21. BYU beat Utah 22-21. Washington State beat Utah State 49-28. Then, a couple. We did have a couple of ranked versus ranked matchups. We did have number 3 Georgia taking on number 16 Ole Miss. Ole Miss getting the upset victory 28-10. And then we did have the big game of the week, Alabama versus LSU. Alabama destroying the Tigers 42-13. And then some unranked teams beating ranked teams. We had number 4 Miami going down to Georgia Tech 28-23. We had number 17 Iowa State going down to Kansas 45-36. And then number 18 Pittsburgh going down to Virginia 24-19. So a lot of really heartbreaking losses. Huge shakeup as far as the college football playoff goes and overall rankings. We did have earlier today, the college football playoff rankings did drop. We have not a lot of movement, especially in the first little bit. Oregon and Ohio State are still your 1 and 2. Texas is 3. Penn State's at 4. Indiana's at 5. BYU's at 6. Tennessee's at 7. Notre Dame's at 8. Miami's at 9. Alabama's at 10. Ole Miss is at 11. Georgia's at 12. Boise State's at 13. SMU's at 14. Texas A&M's at 15. Kansas State's at 16. Colorado's at 17. Washington State's at 18. Louisville's at 19. Clemson's at 20. South Carolina 21. LSU 22. Missouri 23. Army 24. And Tulane is 25. One thing I also like to do is kind of see where all the conferences are standing. So we do have at the ACC, SMU is your current ACC champions at 5-0. Granted, we do still have a conference game, but they are 5-0. They are undefeated. They still have Boston College, Virginia, and California. So 3 ACC matchups, but 3 unranked ACC matchups. And the Mustangs have been playing very well as of late. But we do have an ACC championship game where we take the top 2 teams. Right now in second place, Clemson's at 6-1. Miami right behind at 5-1. Clemson still has Pittsburgh, and that's it as far as their ACC championship go, or their ACC games go. They have 2 games after that, but those are non-conference games. So if they can beat Pitt, they are in the driver's seat to be in the ACC championship game. Having just that one loss is definitely going to help them out. Miami, again, also one loss in ACC play. They still have Wake Forest and Syracuse. So not a hard road for the Hurricanes either, but having 2, it'll be kind of interesting. I believe Miami would have the tiebreaker over Clemson just because they have the better record. If they both were to finish, actually, it looks like Miami has 2 games. Clemson's at 6-1, Miami's at 5-1. So Clemson has a 1-game advantage right now with 1 SEC game. Miami has 2 ACC games. So regardless, that will finish with the same. So that is a moot point. And then on the outside looking in, we do have Louisville at 4-2. They need quite a bit to happen, but they mainly need to win out. They have Stanford, Pittsburgh, and Kentucky. And then Pittsburgh's at 3-2. They have Clemson, Pittsburgh, or they have Clemson, Louisville, and Boston College. So Pittsburgh needs to have a lot happen. Granted, because they are playing Clemson and Louisville, they can't control their own destiny, but they can definitely have a good say in their destiny. If they win both of those games, they just need Miami to lose one, and they'll pretty much have it, or have the ability. But those are the only teams that have a small chance. Again, right now we're looking at SMU and then either Clemson or Miami to be in the ACC championship game. Winner gets a first-round bye in the college football playoffs. Next, we're going to move to the Big 12. Right now, BYU's in the driver's seat at 6-0. They have Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. Kansas, big upset alerts as they just beat Iowa State. This game is in Provo, I believe is where BYU plays. So they will have the home fans, a little advantage there. But then they are on the road for Arizona State and then back home for BYU. So 3 games, anything can happen, especially with how not great they were playing against Utah. Utah has not had that great of a year and definitely gave them some struggles. In second place, we have Colorado. They still have, speak of the devil, Utah, then Kansas, then Oklahoma State. So that Utah game might be a little close, might be a little closer than what people kind of expect. But Colorado's been a very different team since the beginning of the year. They played really sluggish at the beginning, had a couple close calls that shouldn't really have been close calls. And they've definitely been playing like they've been expecting to towards the end. Then we do have some 2-loss teams kind of on the outside looking in, but still have a small chance. We have Iowa State, who still has Cincinnati, Utah, and Kansas State. Kansas State, who still has Arizona, Cincinnati, and Iowa State. Arizona State, who still has Kansas State, BYU, and Arizona. And then West Virginia rounding off our 2-loss teams with Baylor, Central Florida, and then Texas Tech. So really look at that Iowa State, Kansas State game. These teams don't really have a shot of making it because they need a lot to happen. They need Colorado to lose twice, BYU to lose all 3 of their next matchups. So definitely it's going to be hard for them to get in there, but anything is possible in college football. But you look at that Iowa State Kansas State game, the winner of that game is the only team to have a shot. What little of a shot that there is. All right, next we have the fun and exciting Big Ten. Right now at number 1 is Indiana, the number 5 seed. They're not the number 1 seed, but they're number 1 according to Big Ten ranking. It's interesting. They do have Ohio State. Not next week, but the week after. So they have a bye week this week, and then they'll have Ohio State. So that's going to be a tough game. If they can win that game, they deserve to play in the Big Ten championship. And then after that, they will have Purdue, which should be a relatively easy game. Next, we have Oregon, also undefeated in Big Ten play. And they take on Wisconsin and then Washington. So definitely a pretty easy matchup right there. So we could very well have 2 undefeated teams playing each other for the Big Ten championship. And then on the outside looking in, we have both Ohio State and Penn State, both at 5-1. Ohio State losing to Oregon, Penn State losing to Ohio State. Ohio State has Northwestern this week. Then they will have that big game we were talking about, Indiana, and then their big rivalry against Michigan. So they're kind of in that spot where they control their own destiny too. Because if they beat Indiana and win out, and Indiana just has that loss to them, they'll edge out Indiana and make it. So that's a very important game. But definitely, last game of the season, do not look past Michigan. Well, yes, they have not had the best season. They've actually been playing very well, a lot better than anyone's really expected them to play. And then we have Penn State, who really is at a kind of disadvantage because they do have that loss to Ohio State. Not only do they need Oregon and Indiana to fall a little bit, but they also need Ohio State to fall because they do lose out on that tiebreaker. They have a pretty easy road: Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. Minnesota can be a little tricky. They kind of beat up on USC, which really looking at USC, not as good as what we thought they were. But Penn State does need a lot to happen for them to even have a chance at the Big Ten championship. Definitely have a shot at the college football playoffs, though. All 4 of these teams we will probably see in the postseason. I almost clicked on the Pac-12. Pac-12, not a division right now. Technically, they are. They have 2 teams, though. But next we have the SEC, and oh my goodness, the SEC is crazy. So right now we have 3 teams vying for those top 2 spots, all with 1 loss. We have Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Texas. Texas A&M and Texas do play each other in a couple weeks, but we're going to start with Tennessee. They have 2 games left in SEC play. Big one is this week. They are traveling to Athens to take on the Bulldogs. Bulldogs very upset after that loss to to Ole Miss. So that's not going to be an easy win. That's not going to be an easy game at all. That's going to be very, very tough because not only are you traveling to Georgia, you're traveling to take on a very pissed off Georgia team. Then we have Texas A&M. They have 2 games left in SEC play. So they take on New Mexico State, not an SEC game, but then they're taking on Auburn. And then the game we talked about, they have Texas. Speaking of Texas, they have 3 games. They have Arkansas this week. Then they have Kentucky and then Texas A&M. So that game, the Texas A&M Texas game, huge implications for the SEC championship right there. Because if both teams win out, the winners in the championship game. Tennessee, and they got Georgia. That's going to be a tough game. Vanderbilt's going to be a tough game too. And then you have 5 teams all with 2 losses: Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Missouri, LSU. Georgia, we know they play Tennessee, so they want a shot. They have to beat Tennessee. Ole Miss has Florida and Mississippi State, so they have a pretty easy road. Alabama, has Oklahoma and Auburn, which Auburn tends to play Alabama very well in the Iron Bowl. Missouri has South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. And then LSU, trying to get that bounce back. They have Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. So very much all these teams have a shot to make it. SEC is going to be fun to watch the next 3 weeks, which it's always fun to watch. We'll go ahead and talk about games happening this Saturday. First one to talk about is Ohio State taking on Northwestern. Then we have Texas taking on Arkansas. Colorado taking on Utah in Colorado. Clemson's taking on Pittsburgh. Tulane's taking on Navy. Alabama's taking on Mercer. Penn State's taking on Purdue. Notre Dame's taking on Virginia. SMU's taking on Boston College. Louisville's taking on Stanford. LSU's taking on Florida. Boise State's taking on San Jose State. Kansas State's taking on Arizona State. Oregon's taking on Wisconsin. Texas A&M's taking on New Mexico State. Washington State's taking on New Mexico. And BYU is taking on Kansas. Then we do have a couple of ranked versus ranked matchups. Tennessee, Georgia, that's this Saturday. Huge SEC playoff or SEC championship game implications on the line. Missouri's taking on South Carolina. Missouri wants a shot. They got to win out, and that starts off with South Carolina this weekend. And these are all of the games featuring ranked teams. Next, we'll go take a look at our Heisman finalists because we have had quite a bit of movement on this one. If I can find it. I keep telling myself I need to take a screenshot whenever I read the article, but I always forget to take a screenshot of the article. So right now, your Heisman favorite is the wide receiver cornerback combo, Travis Hunter of Colorado. He has had a great year so far, 865 yards, 9 touchdowns receiving. Defensively, 21 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. Right now, he is at plus 120. Next, we have Dylan Gabriel, quarterback of Oregon, currently at 2,848 yards, 22 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He has ran for 148 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's at plus 320. Next, we have running back Ashton Genty out of Boise State with 1,734 yards rushing, 23 touchdowns, 93 yards receiving, and a receiving touchdown. He's at plus 350. And Cam Ward has dropped quite a bit. He's at plus 800 with 3,494 yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and then 3 touchdowns rushing. Kind of a long shot, but still a hopeful is quarterback Curtis Rourke out of Indiana. 2,410 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. 30 carries of 17 yards and 2 touchdowns. So a lot of what he's been doing is through the air. Not a lot of impact running it, which is exactly what you want to see from a quarterback. Great pocket passer there. Reason I bring him up, well, he is at plus 1,400. He has 2 great games coming up. Hopefully 2 great games. Let's not put the cart before the horse. He has the Ohio State game coming up in 2 weeks, which is going to be huge. If he plays lights out, look for his Heisman odds to bolster quite a bit. And then obviously, if that happens and he makes the Big Ten championship game and plays lights out there, very similar to how Robert Griffin III won. For most of the season, not a lot of people were talking about him. And then right at the end of the season, he had that great game against Oklahoma. Finish out the season with great stats, getting Baylor to a bowl game. And while he didn't have as great of a season as Andrew Luck did, he did manage to get the Heisman trophy. Curtis Rourke could have a very similar year like that. And then somebody else that I want to talk about is Jalen Milroe, quarterback out of Alabama, the Heisman winner last year, currently at plus 1,800. But after his game against LSU, he has been nowhere in the Heisman conversation. And then just like Robert Griffin III having a great game against Oklahoma back in 2009, 2010, and then just instantly getting in the Heisman conversation to winning it. Jalen Milroe, phenomenal game against LSU last week. So far, he's had a little over 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 565 yards running, and 16 touchdowns rushing. So huge dual threat quarterback there. He could be in the conversation, especially at the end of the year, to win the Heisman twice in a row. Being the Heisman winner twice, something we haven't seen in a long, long time. Is it time for that to happen again? Maybe, or maybe next year. All right, next we're going to be talking about some NFL games. Tato and I obviously are having our prediction challenge this year. We had very similar picks. We were different on one. We both had very good weeks. One person had 4 wrong. One person had 5 wrong. I'll go over it here in a little bit as far as who came out of the week victorious. And does that mean I built my lead, or does that mean Tato is slowly but surely picking apart what little lead I still have left? So going into Thursday night, we had the Bengals traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. This was a very fun and exciting game. Came down to a last-second 2-point conversion that was unsuccessful for the Bengals. Ravens getting the victory 35-34. Lamar Jackson, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns passing, 33 yards rushing. Derrick Henry with 68 yards rushing and a touchdown. And then Joe Burrow, 428 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns. Chase Brown with 42 yards and a touchdown. Khalil Herbert, their big pickup during the trade deadline, did play like 3 snaps, but no rushing attempts, no targets, so didn't really do anything. Sorry about that. Joe Burrow had a phenomenal performance. If you played him in fantasy, odds are you won. If you were like me and you benched him for somebody who played like crap, you probably lost. Unlike me, I won that game by the skin of my teeth. It was very, very close, but I still got the win. Next, we're going to move on to the Sunday games. We did have the game in Munich, the Panthers taking on the Giants. Panthers were large and in charge at the beginning of the game, but the Giants were able to claw their way back to tie it up at the end of regulation, 17 apiece. But unfortunately, Tyrone Tracy having a disastrous fumble on like the second play in overtime to give the Panthers the ball on like the 20-yard line. Did a little bit to get the ball in a good spot, kicked the game-winning field goal. The Panthers victorious out of Germany. All right, next we're going to move on to the main afternoon games. We had the Broncos taking on the Chiefs. The Broncos looked great all game. They were in the lead all game. And then with 5 minutes left, the Chiefs were able to make a comeback, get the 2-point lead at 16-14. Denver trying to make a comeback, win from behind drive, getting the ball in great position, easy field goal. I think it was going to be like a 30-yard field goal. Right as time expires, Kansas City gets the block, stays undefeated, getting the victory 16-14. I'm going to say Mahomes has been playing a lot better. 266 yards and a touchdown. Bo Nix also played great, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. Maybe he will be in a lot higher in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. We'll have to see a little bit later, though. Speaking of Rookie of the Year, the huge favorite, Washington Commanders quarterback Jane Daniels, taking on Russell Wilson in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk about another very back and forth game. The Steelers getting the win 28-27. Russell Wilson almost 200 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. Did get a touchdown pass to Mike Williams, their big pickup after the right before the trade deadline. Mike Williams only getting the 1 reception, but hey, 1 reception being a 32-yard touchdown, I'll take it. That's a good reception right there. And then obviously some controversy in this game. One being did Zach Ertz get a 4th down conversion, or was he 1 yard short, like where the refs put him? What I will say about that is the exact same thing I had about my dad. Because the ruling on the field was he was 1 yard short. I doubted that they would reverse the play and just change where the ball was. I think they were looking at if they were going to change the call at all, they were going to give it a 1st down. And I do not think Zach Ertz had the ball in a good enough position for them to see. He was definitely on that yard line, but because he did go down to a knee, kind of crouched down, you couldn't really see where that ball was, so it was close. I think because they called him 1 yard short, they weren't just going to say, yeah, he was actually a couple inches short, because there was not clear and obvious picture of where the ball was when he actually went down. They weren't going to overturn that call. I had this exact conversation with my dad right when it was happening. Very close call, but unfortunately, it is what it is. And then the second to last play of the game, it was like 4th and 2, 4th and 3. The Steelers had the ball. They get to the line, and Russell Wilson does his hard count. Commanders rookie defensive tackle jumped, caused encroachment, giving Pittsburgh the 1st down. So they just were able to take a knee to fully end the game. You know, you see it all the time. The team rushes up to the line and does not make a play. This is exactly what they're trying to do. It doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, it's huge. Steelers getting the win. This was the only game Tato and I were different on. Tato picking the Commanders. I picked the Steelers. Because the Steelers won, I had the better record of the week, getting a little bit bigger of a lead going in our challenge. Next, we had the Vikings taking on the Jaguars. Very ugly game. 5 interceptions in total. Sam Darnold had 3. Mac Jones, your starting quarterback out of Jacksonville, with 2. Very ugly game. Because there had to be a winner. Minnesota got the win, 12-7. The lone touchdown was a 1 yard run by Mac Jones. Minnesota just kicked field goals. Next, we have the very surprising game. The Falcons traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints getting the win, 20-17. And yes, it was a very close score. It wasn't a really close game. The Saints got that quick lead, and they just held on to it the whole game. Atlanta was trying to come back and just never was able to get that comeback. Next, we have San Francisco traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Another fun, exciting game, very close game. San Francisco getting the win on a Jake Moody 44-yard field goal at the end of the game to get the win 23-20. Bills taking on the Colts. This was a very ugly game. Another 5 total interception game, but Buffalo gets the win 30-20. And what a story of Joe Flacco. He looked amazing last year, coming out of nowhere for the Browns. And in the little bit that he's played with the Colts, he's had 2 great games, and he's looked horrible since. All right. Unfortunately, Tato, I got to talk about it. The Patriots traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Bears haven't scored a touchdown in like 2 games. And it was no different in this game. Only getting the field goal. New England just putting points on the board. 19-3, getting the win there. It's some news coming out of Chicago this morning because of that game. Goodness. Next, we're traveling to Dallas, where one of us had a great week. The Eagles getting the win 34-6, completely obliterating the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. That does not happen a lot. Jalen Hurts, 202 yards, lit it up, 2 touchdowns. Did have the 1 touchdown running with the brotherly shove. This game was so bad. Second string got put in the final quarter for most of the quarter. Second string came in. And, hey, Kenny Pickett running a brotherly shove of his own and getting the first down on it. So it's crazy. No team can do the brotherly shove except for Philadelphia. Philadelphia does it so well that their backups can get it. Next, we're traveling to Los Angeles, where the Titans travel to take on the Chargers. Chargers getting the win 27-17. Great running game for Los Angeles. Herbert with 164 yards and a touchdown. Will Levis getting the start again, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. No crazy interception, but no crazy getting a win kind of play. And then we're going to travel to Arizona, where the Jets got demolished by the Cardinals, 31-6. Kind of makes you think that, hey, maybe Robert Saleh was a bad firing, like everybody who knows anything about sports was saying. And then the Sunday night game, we had the Lions taking on the Texans. And the quarterback I decided to play over Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, throwing 5 interceptions, becomes the 3rd quarterback in NFL history to throw 5 interceptions, but still somehow get the win. Lions get the win 26-23. And then Monday night game, or as I like to call, Tua give me a heart attack by watching you play a game. Miami getting the win 23-15. Tua is looking great, but he is scaring the crap out of everybody who watches him because he's trying to play the game of football. That was our week. Again, because I did have that one game advantage over Tato, I finished with 10-4. Tato's at 9-5. So for our overall rankings, I'm at 100 wins, 52 wrong. Tato's at 95-57. So speaking of Tato, hey Tato, any thoughts of last week's games?
Well, I will address the Bears. I can't just sit here and run from my fucking problems, They're real. But hopefully they get better soon. But yeah, the offense has just not been good. It's not been acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And it's just that Hail Mary just ripped the fucking soul out of the team. And in a crazy way. It's bananas how things like that can just ruin momentum.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen. They come out 5-2. There's no way. Maybe they lose to Arizona, but they don't get beat. They don't get beat this way twice. If that doesn't happen, it's bananas. And that was really the only game that I saw a ton of. I did see the Chiefs Broncos situation, if that's what we want to call it. Can't pick against those guys, apparently.
It was like the perfect of, oh my goodness, the Chiefs are going to lose. This is how their streak ends against the Broncos. And then, boom, out of nowhere, I believe it was a defensive tackle, gets the block. And then they almost lose the game again because before the Chiefs defensive player who picks up the kick can run out of bounds, he just throws the ball down and runs out of bounds. It's like if any Broncos player was paying attention, just grab the ball and run in. Thankfully there was a another Chiefs player right there who jumped on the ball. But yeah, no, that streak is still intact. But we do have some news as far as stuff going on in the middle of the week. Talking about your Bears, somebody left this morning, no longer having a job. Bears letting go of offensive coordinator Shane Waldron kind of makes sense after these last couple performances. Again, I believe since that Hail Mary against the Commanders, they have not scored an offensive touchdown. So 2 weeks, I believe it's been. Tater, what are your thoughts?
Not a defensive one either, which they normally are. Normally, they kind of do when the offense is doing shit like this. The defense is good for holding up that, like making you say offensive touchdown in that statement. You're so used to saying the offensive touchdown thing with the Bears that you neglected. No, they just haven't scored a fucking touchdown in 2 games, and it's bad. But yeah, no, I did like this cat. Obviously, I don't know too much about the dude. I did like him on Hard Knocks. He seemed like a coach, a player's kind of coach, you know. So hopefully he can at least reinvigorate some kind of spark. At this point, I am back to my original goals for the season, which is just get Caleb right. Let's bring that back, because we had basically 2 months of just like, hey, the Bears are going up, Bears are going up, Bears are going up, and then it's been obviously a month of crap since then. So hopefully if we can just turn it around, get that back in. Playoffs, maybe not realistic. I mean, they're still the 9 seed. If they get a couple wins against teams that it doesn't look like they'll get wins against here, it's possible. But my main thing is just like, let's not get embarrassed. Let's not get the shit kicked out of Caleb. Let's not let Caleb get sacked 9 times and then picked up by an opposing defensive lineman, which should be a fireable offense for everyone involved. Yeah. That's my thoughts.
And I don't know who they have as their interim offensive coordinator right now, but you get that offensive line playing decently. This team,
Thomas Brown, I want to say.
Okay. But yeah, this team plays great when that offensive line's cooking. Especially they had like 2 very, very good wins. And DeAndre Swift was getting close to 100 yards rushing and a touchdown in both of those games. Just a couple wins, and this team is very well in playoff contention. So we'll see what happens. So far this year, firing your coach has been either the worst mistake you can make or a great decision, as we've seen with the Saints.
I have to go get water. I'll be right back.
Oh, you are good. I will go ahead and talk about the next thing then, because we're going to quit trashing on your Browns. But you might have noticed if you were watching the Eagles-Cowboys game, that Cooper Rush was the starting quarterback for the Cowboys. We talked about it last week. Dak with I believe it's a hamstring injury, was expected to miss a couple weeks. He did announce today that he was going to have season-ending surgery. So Cooper Rush will be the starting quarterback probably for the next couple weeks. They do also have Trey Lance. I'd be surprised if Trey Lance does not get a couple starts this season. But regardless, Dak Prescott will not be playing the rest of the season. He is getting surgery on, again, I believe it's his hamstring. And then in other news, Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco, who suffered a broken leg earlier this season, is expected to return to practice. So, Tato, any thoughts on Pacheco joining the Chiefs after his injury? And then also we talked about Dak Prescott having season-ending surgery.
Okay, so Dak, that was who. I caught the tail end of that one. Yeah, Cowboys season wasn't going to be it anyway. So I think it's safe to say is the Cowboys' window over. I think it's like this is a bigger picture thing. I feel like at this point, if we're going to talk about the Dak thing, is it over for them? Like, who knows? I guess we'll figure that one out. Pacheco, cool. I haven't gotten to watch a ton of Chiefs games, but I assume Kareem Hunt's been holding it down. So yeah, whoever it's Andy Reid. He can do whatever the hell he wants with whatever the hell running back he wants. He'll figure it out.
Kareem Hunt, not good enough to play for the Cleveland Browns, has been lights out for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. I do think this last week was the first week since he's been back that he hasn't had a great performance. No touchdowns. I believe he only had like 30 or 40 yards rushing. So it was definitely held quite a bit by the Broncos, but it's been playing very well since. I do think it'll be scary. But yeah, no, go a little bit more about the Cowboys. It's very interesting because they did re-sign CeeDee Lamb during the offseason to a very big contract, being one of the highest paid receivers. He hasn't done anything this year. The day of the season kicking off, they announced that they re-signed Dak Prescott to one of the highest contracts of a quarterback. And he's had a very disappointing season. And then you have Micah Parsons, who hasn't gotten paid yet, still on his rookie deal. I believe this next year will be his last year with the team if he doesn't get re-signed or traded. And you look at the only reason the Cowboys were kind of in that game, and the score kept them out of the game, was because of Micah Parsons. During this winning streak of the Eagles, they haven't turned the ball over. They turned the ball over twice against the Cowboys. I was kind of scared, especially for that first half. That game was very close. Towards the end of the second quarter and then really into that second half, the Eagles just ran away with it. But Micah kept them in the game. This was his first game back from injury. And he was a difference maker, especially at the very beginning, just keeping Jalen on his toes, keeping him running for quite a bit, making him very inaccurate, especially for that first part of the game. And I don't think they have the money to sign him because they have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb that they just threw away all that money for. So very, very disappointing for the Cowboys. But when you do not prepare for the test you are about to take, you cannot be upset at the teacher when you fail that test. And if you just look at their off season, they did nothing. If you look at their regular season, they have done nothing. So they have really no shot of making the playoffs. And they can't be mad at anyone except for themselves. So sorry, Dallas, but you guys suck. All right, Tato, let's go ahead and talk about next week. Again, I am up by 5 games. So let's see how this week goes for us. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, we have a great matchup. NFC East standings on the line. The winner is currently going to be in the number 1 in that conference. We have the Commanders traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Eagles right now 3.5-point favorites. One thing that I have said is Jaden Daniels plays great when he plays bad defenses, but when he plays good defenses, he struggles, or at least looks a little more down to earth. Exactly what happened against the Steelers. He did not play that great. Ravens, he did not play that great. And against the Eagles, he will not play that great. I do have the Eagles winning this game. Tato, what do you have?
I also have the Eagles getting it done here.
Awesome. I really thought about doing your logic of I'm going to go with the Commanders because then, hey, if the Eagles win, yay. But if the Commanders win, I get that one. But I'm like, no, I can't go against my Eagles because it's going to be that kind of reverse logic thing. And it's just not going to go well for me. All
Well,
right.
we'll see if the first game we talk about at noon is.
First game we're talking about for the 1 o'clock noon slot is another very exciting two top of the division teams. We have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. The Ravens are 3-point favorites. Tato, who is your pick on this one?
Yep, Ravens continue to be a top 3 team in my opinion, so I think they continue to do that.
All right. I do like the story of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nobody thought this team would do anything, and they are currently number 1 in the AFC North. But I do think it has been their success has been 80% luck. One thing is this is going to be their first division game, and this is where their luck starts running out. I do have the Ravens winning this game as well. Next, we have the Jaguars traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions are 13-point favorites. I do not like that spread. 13 points is a lot of points, and I realize you have one of the best teams taking on one of the worst teams. But the Jaguars' defense has been playing a lot better, especially in the last 2 weeks. And Jared Goff has shown he can throw interceptions. He had the 5 last week. But regardless, I do think the Lions just having that dual threat, they can either throw it or they can run it down your throat. I have the Lions winning this game.
Yeah, Lions probably smashing faces, biting kneecaps again.
I'm going to say they can either win by 1 or win by 50. So it's kind of that crazy, like that 13-point spread could be exact. It could be way off. You never know. All right. Next, we have the Rams traveling to New England. Rams are 5-point favorites. Tato, what's your pick on this one?
I have the St. Louis Rams, as you called them earlier. Yeah, I have the Rams getting it done here. I think they're kind of firing, and yeah, maybe another little old graybeard Matt Stafford. I can't believe that's the world we're living in.
But unfortunately, because you called them the St. Louis Rams, I cannot award you the points because they do not play in St. Louis anymore. I do also have the Rams winning. Well, yes, they lost last week. They've been playing a lot better now that they have their weapons back. And taking on a bad New England team, I have the Rams kind of getting back in that playoff. Hey, they win this game, they're 500. 3 weeks ago, if I told they were looking at trading away everybody, and now they're going to be 500 and in playoff contention. That's crazy to think about. Next, we have a toilet bowl. The Cleveland Browns traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints are 1.5-point favorites. I'll go ahead and start off with this one. One signing I did not realize happened that I realized happened Sunday morning when Marquez Valdez-Scantling scored a touchdown for the New Orleans Saints. I'm like, wait, MVS is a Saint? When did this happen? Apparently he got signed by the Saints like 2 weeks ago. I do think that was a great pickup. They've been having a ton of injuries. Khalil Shakir is out for the season. So he does give that that nice deep threat that Shakir was giving him. Chris Olave has been fighting some injury issues. So having MVS there has really kind of invigorated this offense. And while, yes, they did have that one legendary lightning in a bottle game after firing their head coach, I think we see a very similar thing here where I think the Saints beat the Browns.
I too have the Saints getting it done here. Who obviously they've had a rough shake, but Browns have had maybe a rougher shake. And yeah, it's a total toilet bowl. It could go any which way, but I think the gold shines.
All right, and if you thought that was a toilet bowl, this one's even worse. This game is going to end in a 0-0 tie. We have the Indianapolis Colts traveling to New Jersey to take on the Jets. Jets are 4-point favorites. Tato, what's your pick on this one?
Yeah, this is the one probably that gave me the most pause and just I'm like just sitting there like, what do I do here? I don't feel there's no feeling good about picking any of these teams. So I went with the Jets. Don't feel good about it, but that's what I did.
I was in a very similar boat where I was just constantly going back and forth. I'm like, we could get lights out Joe Flacco. We could get lights out Aaron Rodgers. I just don't trust either of those happening. But the one that I do trust, the one constant that we've seen is Jonathan Taylor. The boy can run like it's nobody's business. Because of Jonathan Taylor, I think the Colts will get the win in this game. So there we go. We do have a difference there. But again, neither of us like our picks. So who knows on this one? Next, we have the Vikings traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Vikings right now are 6-point favorites. This one's going to be a lot closer than I think people are expecting. For some reason, I don't remember who. I think it was ESPN did their power rankings in the NFL, and they put the Vikings at like 3 or 4. I'm like, there's no way the Vikings are in the top 10 of the NFL right now. They've been playing horrible. They had that ugly win against the Jags last week. I want to go for the Titans. I want to so bad. But unfortunately, Will Levis is starting for the Titans. And the Vikings just have that great defense. Sam Darnold is an onion. He is straight up onion Sam Darnold again. He's going to be seeing ghosts. But somehow the Vikings are going to get the win this game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd grant them top 10 based on the win-loss record still, but yeah, the quality is dropping off. I think they're clearly outside of the top 3 at this point. Like the whole who's better, the Lions or Vikings thing is pretty over, I think, at this point. And then the Packers are a pretty clear third in the division, I feel. But we'll see how that one shakes out, too. That said, I am going with the Vikings here. The Titans aren't very good. And I continue to say the Vikings are still very well coached.
That is true. And I do find it hilarious that they start playing Sam Darnold starts playing like we expect Sam Darnold to play. And they play the Jaguars and the Colts. So they have the luckiest schedule because they have the 3 worst teams in football right when they're looking bad. So they just get these easy wins per se, even though their starting quarterbacks playing so bad right now. All right. Next we have the Rams or the Raiders of Las Vegas traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 7.5-point favorites. Tato, I do not feel good going with this, but I have to go with the Dolphins. Just the way Tua has been playing, especially last week. He's been playing a lot. He's been playing very well, and it shows that this team is nothing without Tua. They've also been running the ball. They ran the ball pretty well yesterday. I think the Dolphins get the win here. And I realize you should have gone first, but I'm stealing your thunder.
You're all good, Ski. I have the Dolphins too on this one. Dolphins Tua, as it were. Yeah, they're much better with him behind the under center, as it were.
I do have to ask though, do you think Tua finishes the season, or does he get another concussion?
I think he'll scrape through.
With how he's been playing, dude, he's scaring me. Yeah. As somebody who got a lot of concussions while I played sports, like that kid scares me, and that's bad.
It's not good.
No. All right. The last of the 1 o'clock games, the Packers are traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. Packers are 6.5 point favorites. Tato, who's your pick on this one?
Not the team that can't score a fucking touchdown. Sorry. Yeah, no, I like it. I can't physically say anything more, but yeah, just go with that.
Yeah. And funnily enough, I know
I
exactly.
can't bring myself to speak the words, but
Yes. Okay, I got you. The team that always wins at Soldier Field. That is the team that you are picking to win. I got you. No, I'm with you too. I don't know how the firing of Shane Waldron does for the Bears. It probably is a good move, but they're playing the Packers. The Packers own the Bears in Soldier Field. The Packers have a very good team this year. They're 6-3, and they're the third best team in the NFC North. That's crazy to think about. Well, actually, no, second best team, because let's be honest, the Vikings are trash. You either get great Jordan Love or you get bad Jordan Love. And the thing about good or bad Jordan Love is they have Josh Jacobs, so it doesn't matter which Jordan Love you have. They're also coming off of a bye. I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Packers are going to mollywomp the Bears. It's going to be sad, Tato. I'm sorry.
No, they'll make this one close enough to give me hope into the fourth quarter.
Into the fourth quarter, and then the Packers just run away with it. All right. With the 4 o'clock games, we have the Falcons traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos are 2.5 point favorites. I think I'm going first on this one. This is another one where I've kind of gone back and forth on because the Falcons have that outstanding victory where they play great, and then they have the games like this last Sunday where they just play bad for absolutely no reason, and that's Kirk Cousins for you. They've been playing great on the road. They're 3-1, but after Sunday they will be 3-2. Denver's not the team that you can travel to their stadium and be as inconsistent as the Falcons have been. I have the Broncos getting the win here.
Yeah, this is another one I sat and flip-flopped on, and then I was wondering why the Falcons were or why the Broncos were so faded. I thought maybe the Falcons had some injuries. Didn't look too terrible on the Falcons injury front, so I did lean Falcons here. I think Kirko gets it done.
Hey, it's not prime time, so
yeah.
All right, next we have the Seahawks traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. 49ers are 6.5 point favorites.
Yep, 49ers seem to be clicking on all cylinders at this point. What a shocker. Yep, San Francisco.
Yeah. I know a lot of people were kind of expecting this team to be unstoppable with Christian McCaffrey back. And while it was a very close game against Tampa Bay, Christian McCaffrey was had some really great plays. He didn't play most of the game because you don't just take a guy who's sat out for this long and just be like, here, we're going to let you run it 40 times. It's called load management. It's very smart coaching. You should try it once in your life. But he definitely gave that team an edge that they just haven't had for most of the season. I think that's going to be exactly what happens against Seattle, where they're going to come out guns blazing. It's in San Francisco, too, so that home crowd is going to be popping. 49ers get the dub. All right, in our last 4 o'clock game, we have the Chiefs traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. This is another game where I've kind of gone back and forth on because you don't bet against the Chiefs unless they're playing the Bills in the regular season. But that being said, I'm going with the Chiefs.
Damn, I thought I was going to steal another Chiefs win off you on this one. I've got the Chiefs here too. Hey, the Bills being favorites, like that's pretty nuts. And I'll like it almost made me want to break it, but the Chiefs are, I'm pretty sure, the only team who has not let me down in this season. I've I've never not picked them, and they've never made me regret not picking them. So I'm gonna keep that train rolling,
That's true.
even when it does bite me in the ass.
Yeah, I don't think they go undefeated. I've gone on record saying this before, not on stream, but definitely to some people, mainly last Sunday. I believe the Chiefs are going to go 16-0, and then they're going to travel to Denver to take on the Broncos, and the Broncos get that victory, giving the Chiefs the 16-1 record, just being that one blemish.
Who's the Chiefs' backup quarterback?
Carson Wentz.
Oh no, that fucking Carson can beat the Broncos. Yeah.
But I think this is gonna be a fun, tough game. But yeah, I've gone on record saying it. They're gonna go 16-1. They're gonna win the Super Bowl, and it's gonna be like, we didn't want to win that game because we didn't want the whole. Are you gonna go undefeated? Are you gonna go undefeated? But that's gonna be the one game they lose. They have to win this game. Streak continues. All right, Tato. Sunday Night Football. The team that shouldn't be playing primetime game, but is playing a primetime game, the Cincinnati Bengals, traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Chargers right now are 1.5-point favorites, but you're going first on this one.
Yeah, I don't hate that the Bengals are playing prime time. I've said it a billion times that they're a much better team than their record shows. That said, I've also said many times that those Harbaugh guys know how to win football games, and I think that one continues. I have the Ravens and the Chargers winning this week.
Yeah. So right now the Bengals are 3-2 away, but I don't know why ESPN is showing their away record because they should really be showing their home record. Because the Chargers don't have home field advantage; they have home field disadvantage. And this is basically an away game for the Bengals, and the Bengals have not been playing that great on the road. That being said, too, the Chargers have like one of the best defenses. They have the top scoring defense in the league right now. So I guess Joe Burrow can put up 5 touchdowns on you just like it's nothing. That defense can't stop a bloody nose. And I get bloody noses a lot, so I know how easy it is to stop a bloody nose. I think the Bengals are the most unfortunate team in football right now, mainly because of that defense. They can put as many points on the board as they want to, but they can't stop anybody. I have the Chargers winning this one also. And next we travel to Monday Night Football, traveling to Dallas, the Texas Bowl, as some people like to call it. Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Houston is a 7.5-point favorite. Obviously, Dallas, they do not have Micah Parsons, or they do have Micah Parsons. They don't have Dak Prescott. As of right now, Cooper Rush is making the start there. But crazy stat, Dallas right now is 0-4 at home. They're usually undefeated at home. They do have one thing going for them. Because this is a night game, they will not have the random sun in their eyes because of the stupid windows at the end zone. But regardless, the Texans just too good. They get the win, mainly because they're angry about the Lions game. But they get the win on this one.
Yep, I gotta echo your sentiments on that one. Chip on the shoulder, Texans. Cowboys, like just made of suck at this moment. As we said, Philadelphia went in and wrecked their world, and I don't think that they're gonna pick up any slack against the Texans.
But yeah, if you ever question the intelligence of Jerry Jones, the man spent like $1 billion on this state-of-the-art field and forgot about a big glowing ball that's in the sky for 14 hours a day. Like the thing he sees most in his life, he completely forgot about. It was like, oh, the sun affects my eyes. My wide receivers can't see. But no, going to be an interesting week. Looks like we're different on one game. Two games, which is kind of the running theme here, where we're very similar on a lot of stuff. So very excited to see what that does for our rankings at the end of the season, or at the end of this week, and then also at the end of the season. But for y'all at home, thank you so much for watching. Go follow Tato because he's in the middle of the Lights Out There Will Be Carnage tournament. Don't watch the second round of the episode that dropped today because just some little tomfoolery going on. But the Phoenix Coyotes are not the same as the Arizona Coyotes. I don't care what you say. And you should not be awarded points for that one. But definitely go check him out because other than that, it's great. But hey,
no, you didn't get the point. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. It's kind of where I quit watching though. So, but thank you so much for watching. Make smart choices. Be nice to people. Wash your hands. Don't run out in the middle of the street. Or do. I don't care. That sounds like fun. I'm not your dad, but I could be your papa.